Welcome to Listenwise News Bites, where you can hear stories from the news that are specially selected for young listeners. I'm Monica Brady-Myerov, a public radio reporter and the founder of Listenwise, an award-winning online listening resource used by teachers. We have a curated collection of more than 2,000 podcasts from sources such as NPR and other producers of high-quality audio storytelling. In this episode, we learn more about the systemic racism that's driving protests across the country. And the coronavirus shutdown has cleared the roads of cars and made way for bicycles. Also, how did the cat get out? You'll have to hear this weird news story to find out. First, a story about protests throughout the U.S. over police brutality against Black people.
To Louisville, Kentucky now. It has also been a center of protest after police there killed a local woman named Breonna Taylor. She was an EMT, shot while she was sleeping in her own apartment as officers executed a no-knock warrant back in March. Now the National Guard, state troopers, and local police have come out in force. Earlier this week, a man named David McAtee was shot and killed while he was barbecuing for a crowd. We'll hear more about him in another part of the program. Our co-host Ari Shapiro is in Louisville, and he introduces us next to one community leader who's been out marching with her daughter.
Representative Atticus Scott is the only Black woman serving in the Kentucky State Legislature.
Hi.
Good morning.
How are you? Good morning. I love your colorful mask.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We met up in the shade of her backyard in West Louisville, ripe mulberries hanging from the trees nearby. And as we talked, the sound of a train horn kept punctuating the conversation. Scott told me that sound says a lot about the disparities between majority Black neighborhoods like this one in West Louisville and whiter, wealthier areas on the east side of town.
In the East End, they have quiet zones. Trains can't blow their horns. We've been trying for decades to get that in West Louisville so that kids can sleep at night and not have to get up at 6 in the morning to go to school with 2 or 3 hours of sleep because the train horn blew all night. It's all part of it.
Scott marched downtown Friday night with her teenage daughter, and I asked her to tell me about what happened.
For 5 amazing hours, it was beautiful. Love, support for one another, resistance, of course, civil disobedience. And I love to see the young Black men who, when vehicles would try to drive through the line of people who were locking arms, they'd walk up to the driver and say, "We love you, but you can't come this way. You have to turn around." Everything was in love until law enforcement showed up. And then that's when things became violent. I walked up to the line where the police were, and immediately there was an officer who made his way directly to me to start pushing and shoving me without ever opening his mouth, without saying a word.
Just physical contact before even...
I'm 5 feet even. This guy had to be over 6 feet and just started pushing against me. No word whatsoever.
Did you at any point say, "I'm an elected representative"?
I didn't want to even do that. It wasn't necessary. I'm here in solidarity with my neighbors, my constituents, my friends, my family. I shouldn't have to single myself out as if I'm special or different. You should respect and value all of us. And so you're advancing on us and we're being peaceful. We're singing, we're playing music. We marched around the block, we marched around the police department, and never once was there an act of vandalism or violence.
And it intensified from there, right?
Quickly. It was within 10 minutes. I mean, minding my business, talking to a friend, and boom. And I couldn't believe it. No, I mean, I got separated from my daughter. She was literally across the street, but the tear gas smoke was so thick and my eyes were burning and throat burning that I couldn't even get across the street to my daughter. And she was terrified. And I'm falling, running. At one point, I'm blind by my mask because I couldn't keep it over my mouth because I had to put it over my eyes.
That was 5 days ago now.
Yes.
In hindsight, how do you think about the way that experience that you had on Friday night fits into the larger issue that is leading to these protests and what's going on right now?
I mean, it's an example of why people are rising up. There's the violence, of course, that people are protesting against from police, from the people who are supposed to protect and serve us. There are also the inequities that we experience every single day, and all of that is enough. Mm-hmm. It is enough, and people are saying it's enough, and that all of our elected officials from local, state, and federal government have got to step up and take care of people.
The inequities that we experience every single day, spell that out.
I can spell it out. We're in my neighborhood, predominantly black part of Louisville, West Louisville. You can see it when you drive through the neighborhoods, abandoned and vacant properties, boarded up buildings, the lack of economic development and investment. You can see it when you drive through. You can see one grocery store, one place for people to go and get their groceries. That's it. That's it. And so it can be devastating, but it's also why I stay. I was born and raised in West Louisville, and I stay because there's work to do.
So when you think about the younger generation, what your daughter has experienced, what lessons do you think young people are taking from what they've seen in this last week?
I think they're taking away love. So they know from community, from people, from neighbors, and from friends, there's love. I'm disappointed, though, because they're also receiving the message that police are here to abuse them, not protect them. And so I hope from here that they take those messages and say, well, then it's going to take us to transform the systems in which we operate, dismantle them, break them down, and build something that works for all of us.
Do you take any hope from the fact that the chief of police was fired, that there have been consequences?
There haven't been any consequences. He was going to retire July 1st anyway, and he's going to get his full benefits. There haven't been any real consequences. The 3 officers who murdered Breonna Taylor are still employed by the Louisville Metro Police Department. That's not a consequence at all.
You've been working on these issues for a long time here in Louisville, and now the whole country is paying attention. What impact do you think this is having?
It's, at least for the folks who are on the ground, it's so helpful to have our story go outside of Louisville and outside of Kentucky, because if we only contained it here, we wouldn't get anything, much of anything done for real, because we have people who will placate, right? There are people who will do just enough to feel like they can silence us. But having this be part of a national narrative sends a message that no place is unique, really. You know, we're all experiencing these systemic issues that we have to dismantle. I also believe that it's making more Louisvillians who, would not otherwise be paying attention because they don't see it happening to them, pay attention. Because they're like, wait a minute, other people outside of Louisville are talking about us, and why? People should be asking themselves, why am I allowing my tax dollars to feed this violence?
Representative Atticus Scott, thank you so much for talking with us.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
We also asked to sit down with the Louisville Police Department, and they declined our interview request.
That conversation aired on NPR. I liked her comment that she thinks young people are taking away love from the protests. What do you think can be done to create positive change where you live? The next story is about how the pandemic has made the roads in Pakistan safer, not just because there are fewer cars, but because women feel less harassed by men when they ride their bikes.
The coronavirus shutdowns have cleared the roads of a lot of cars and cleared the way for bicycles. There's been a huge surge in cycling around the world, including in Pakistan, where the face of cyclists is changing. NPR's Dia Hadid reports from Islamabad.
It's a hectic day for Haroon General at Aero Cycling. It's a hole-in-the-wall bike shop.
Can you show me the tire? Okay. Just a moment. The number of bikes that have gone in the past 1 month is actually more than the number of bikes we've sold in the past 2 years. If you want to bring the bigger bike, na, to kis time kal le aana, we're open from 12 to 5.
Before the pandemic, most of General's customers were men. Now he's got families and women, like Rima Khan. She's eyeing the last lady's bike for sale.
It's a red and a black bike.
It reminds her of when she last rode a bike.
When I was a kid, I had a red and a black bike, so I'm very interested in a red and a black bike, if I can get one.
She's even brought a picture of her childhood bike, the last one that she rode. It's seen as vulgar for grown women to ride, but now things have changed. And it seems some women have taken up cycling because there's fewer men on the road to harass them. Salwa Junj was 26. She dusted off her brother's bike a few weeks ago.
It's kind of upsetting that it took a pandemic for girls to feel safe to ride their bikes on their road.
Still, Janjwa mostly rides with friends, not alone. And like most women on bicycles here, she's from an upscale area.
We speak with a certain privilege because we live in neighborhoods where, of course, like there's people staring everywhere, but then our neighborhoods are relatively safer.
Now, on a bike, she feels free.
So nice. It's been really, really nice. Such a invigorating and like an amazing experience, you know.
Especially with the view of the rolling hills. We're driving down one of Islamabad's most scenic roads. The Himalayas are on our left-hand side and the city begins on our right. There's more people on bicycles than I've ever seen before in this city. And we can see in the distance another 2 women, so we'll stop over to say hello to them.
Hi there. Hello.
They're 2 sisters. Adila Zain has just taken up biking.
The first week was really difficult. Now, as it's the second month, I'm liking it more and I'm increasing my distance and time.
Her sister, Misbah Anwar, has ridden for years. She says she's used to being harassed. It happened just a few days ago.
There were a couple of people who were passing some remarks. I turned my cycle, I went up to them and I scolded them and I said, does this suit you?
Does it suit you to be a jerk? But Anwar says this pandemic could be a small blessing.
We have an advantage with this lockdown and corona and all. The cycling has become really common among the girls in Islamabad. Now people will get used to that, okay, now girls can be on the bicycles too.
Now though, Pakistan is lifting its lockdown and that means more cars and more men on the roads. Still, Adila Zain says she'll stay on her bike.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to continue it, inshallah.
Dia Hadid, NPR News, Islamabad.
I can get on a bicycle anytime I want and no one stares at me or bothers me. I hadn't really thought of it as a privilege to ride a bike. What are some of the privileges you are enjoying during the pandemic? And now it's time for some weird news. Who let the cat out?
Good morning, I'm Rachel Martin. Cats have their own agenda. Sometimes even the pros can't contain them. Quilty is a cat at the Friends for Life shelter in Houston, Texas. He repeatedly lets other cats out of their rooms. The shelter wrote on Facebook that Quilty will not be contained, and he has no shame. It says if someone is looking for a pet that gets along with the dog but not closed doors, they've got the cat for you. And there have been lots of offers, but then Quilty might not want to escape, and where's the fun in that?
Thanks to our partner NPR and to Scott Holmes for our theme music. That's it for the Listenwise News Bites podcast this week. For more stories from the news selected for young listeners, go to www.listenwise.com and sign up for free. And subscribe to this podcast for our weekly shows. Happy listening.